So دكتور احمد هنا، دكتور احمد هنا، وبعدين باشمهندس طيب هنا، وبعديه اتفضل. استاذه غاده Hello everyone. It's my great pleasure to welcome you in one of our main sessions talking about the Benban story. We started by speaking about importance of financing and the triple bottom line and the power of the three coming together, the collaboration that needs to happen in the market between the government, international finance institutions, and the private sector to facilitate and accelerate investments. And we're talking investment here in renewable energy, in green projects, and even projects with a high level of complexities that contribute to cleaner, greener, and more sustainable environments. It requires the collaboration of those three. You need to look at social, environmental, and economic when you look at any project today. And if you do it with the proper governance, you will see that it can have amazing returns. And we saw that with the ERC example. But now we will be introducing the tangible development outcomes witnessed while working on the Benban project. These include avoidance of 2 million GHG tons per annum, job creation, women empowerment, strong governance framework, recognized by the World Bank. Also, it will focus on the importance of responsible green condition financing in achieving climate action, including achieving the NDCs, reducing GHG emissions, and shifting towards the 42% renewable energy mix by 2035. And RIA will highlight the importance of public-private alignment, and Qala Holdings, as the holding company of Taqa Arabiya, will share its experience as the leader of the only 100 fully Egyptian consortium and local pioneer in renewable energy. The session will be concluded by just a film about the project so you can get to see it alive. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Ahmed Heikel, founder and chairman of Qala Holdings, a leading investment company in Africa and the Middle East. Dr. Engineer Mohammed Al Khayyat, CEO of the New and Renewable Energy Authority, the government entity that focuses on regulating the renewable energy market in Egypt, and the authority that shall take the credit for launching the feed-in tariff program, the mechanism that led to encourage major electricity generation projects from renewable resources. I also would like to welcome Shireen Shohdi, Head of Egypt and Coverage Director, North Africa at the British International Investment that has focused mainly on green condition financing. Let me also welcome our panelist, Ms. Pakinam Kafefi, CEO of Taqa Arabiya, the leading energy and utility provider in Egypt, an energy company that has its focus on expanding portfolio of renewable energy projects and that has reached more than 100 megawatt of renewable capacity in the last couple of years. So first, I would like you to look at a film that will just show us the dream of what Benban was or was hoped to be. And let's just look at it. It's okay.
This is the largest solar project in the world when it will be completed. This will produce about 50 megawatt, but imagine, this is 50 megawatt, it's huge. It can go from all directions. Imagine that we're going to do 2,000 megawatt. This project would not have been possible at all if there was not the reform of the energy sector in Egypt. So the World Bank worked very hard at it with the government, opened up the sector, reformed the tariff structure, and we crowded in about $2 billion with very little to put on the government debt pool.
This magnitude of solar power generation make the life of the people in Egypt make a big difference.
So this is how it all started, as a dream with a lot, many entities that came together to make it happen and make it reality. Let me start with Dr. Ahmed Hakel asking you, how do you see the collaboration between the main trio that you always talk about? How has it contributed to making this a successful project? The financing, the sustainability, the bankability. Can you just give us a bit about the story?
Again, it highlights what I was saying about ERC. It is coming together with a government, first a government that has a vision of a project that is very well conceived, very well designed, very well structured, with a legal framework that is very strong, together with DFIs, the private sector, and sovereign wealth funds. In this particular case, sovereign wealth funds did not play a very significant role, but certainly without DFIs and the private sector, couldn't have been done.
Thank you. Um, Engineer Khayat, um, could you please tell us a bit about the advice you would like to give to private sector and international financing institutions in order to facilitate and accelerate renewable energy projects in Egypt in order to reach the proposed 42% energy mix with the lessons learned from a project like Benban?
Okay. First, I would like really to thank you for inviting me to share in this distinguished uh, panel. Regarding Benban, let me start from the last sentence already mentioned on the video. There is a sand which has been shown as a market for others. Consequently, we do believe that the market definition really is in a dynamic status. It is usually in a change phase. And consequently, when we look for what has been done in Benban, the first issue is the harmony among all the stakeholders, either from the public authorities and also the private sector, the financing institutions, and all stakeholders already shared in this success story. The switch from became to be instead of becoming competitors to become partners, and this is really one of the main issues behind the success. By the way, I still remember the visit from His Excellency David Malbas from yes, exactly. It was the first visit for him abroad, USA, directly, yes, from Washington, D.C. to Benban, and visited, by the way, Taka projects, and it was fascinating moments really to see what has been done on the market. Also, the understanding for the risks. When we look for Benban, we will remember that it has been done through two phases. First, phase one and phase two, with two different tariffs, with two different conditions. And at the end of the day, there were a full understanding, full estimate for the risks from the stakeholders. Consequently, they became able to react to the market dynamics and consequently have their success stories from their projects. And this is really what we do rely in future, what we do rely to have in the coming few years regarding more and more share of renewable energy. Thank you very much.
Shireen, um, thank you for joining us today, Ms. Shohdi. Well, BEI being the UK government primary delivery vehicle for climate finance across Africa and other emerging economies. Now, how do you really see the role of DFIs and other private investors in developing innovative solutions that address key climate challenges, particularly within the context of the constantly changing macro environment? How do you perceive Egypt as an investment destination for projects like Benban of that scale or other scales?
First of all, I don't know, is it working? First of all, thank you very much for having me. I think it's a great pleasure, and especially when the word Bimban comes up, I think personally I have a very personal passion for this particular project. I've been involved in it in different capacities throughout the years, and it always brings me great joy to be part of it and go back and visit. But I think going back to your question for us as BII, so we are the impact investing arm for the UK government. And bringing climate and development together are in the core of our strategy, as in the core of all our investment decisions. I think over the years, the way we've trying to actually deliver on climate has been more to focus not just on the volume, but also to focus on the quality of what we're actually being able to provide into the market. So since 2017, actually, we've deployed around $1.7 billion. And over the past 6 years, we've accelerated our climate investments from just under $40 million to today more than $400 million. And I think their need is still growing for projects similar to the size of Bimban, but that's one side of the story. But you also have the other end of the story where you're looking at smaller investments addressing adaptation and resilience, which is one of the key issues around climate, and trying to think of innovative solutions. And I think as DFIs, it's very important to recognize that the challenges of climate are not always easy addressable projects. We're not going to always find the bankable projects. We're not going to always find the off the shelf financing solutions or even investment answers to how we can fund these projects. And as DFIs, we constantly try to think of innovative ways to be able to engage, to be able to provide even concessional financing, to find grants that we're able to tap into, and different sorts of climate or green capital to deploy and be able to encourage more and more innovation. So I think the scale is large. So similar to Bimban, that's large scale and it's massive. I mean, the impact is huge, not just from climate, but also from an economic and a social perspective. But we also try to focus even on the other flip side of the spectrum, on the smaller size scale, and really trying to look at adaptation and resilience as one of the key focus areas for us.
Thank you, Ms. Rosie. Now, to Ms. Pakinam Kafefi, could you please take us through the success story being the first fully Egyptian company and the only one to finalize the 65 megawatt project with Benban, one of the biggest solar parks in the world, with all the financing, amazing financing story behind it?
Um, as Shireen said, يعني Benban for us was our pride and joy, and it will be still the same feeling, because it was not the door opener and the real milestone to the trio, government and private sector and DFIs in Egypt, but it's also for us, especially that it was our first project. So it was between that we wanted to prove ourselves that we are capable as our first project of renewable. Taka has been studying green and because of awareness of climate change since 2014. And when the government initiated the feed-in tariff, it was a great opportunity for us. The first challenge that we wanted to do it alone, and it was very hard to convince DFIs and Dr. Khayat and the team that we are capable. The reason both of them approve and were so excited to do it alone, and we are the only Egyptian companies with no multinational experience and first project, is that we've been working with the ministry for ages, developing and big distribution and generating and the DFIs believed in our milestones and how we are tackling this project in an efficient way. We did it step by step. So step number one, we took these approvals and we said we're going to prove ourselves. Step number two, we managed to get a real consultants, EPC, all the top notch, to have our learning, get our team to learn, to be because we were looking for the future. The third step, we managed, and we were the few ones to manage to make, although we took approval of $75 million to our project, we finished it by $72 million, which means that we managed it in the best efficient way. And we were the first one in round two. And I think Dr. Khayatu, he was mentioning David Malpass, he was in our land opening our project. Now we are one of the top 3 from IFC for environmental and safety. And we believe this project made us, not only us and Egypt and all the private sector, to open the trio for more successful. And we can see now on ground hydrogen project, wind project that have the combination of the trio that inshallah will be as successful and more successful than Benban.
Can we play the film, please? I'd love us to look at the project today. Now it's finished, the 65 megawatt. It's okay, they ممكن بيشوفوا معاك. Thank you. So amazing project, amazing achievement. Um, Dr. Ahmed, after Benban success story and the many other ones that you have currently in your portfolio, what is in planning? What's the roadmap? How do you plan on replicating the success story, whether locally or regionally? What are you thinking about?
The TACA is doing a number of projects that are private to private sector consumer with private sector development being TACA. That we have done in Dina Farms, that we're doing right now in Minya in the ASCOM calcium carbonate project. So the private to private model is a profitable model, but it needs much more work because you need to make sure that the client is a bankable client. In the model from private to government, you do not have to worry about the client because the client is a government. But in the private to private model, you need to worry about the bankability of your clients. So it requires it. You're taking more risk, and you are doing a lot more analysis on the client. So it's a different beast that we're doing at this point in time. We're continuing also to do um, solar power selling to governments, not only the Egyptian government, but other governments in the region. And we have new projects that we are engaging in at this point in time, which is an industrial park powered by mostly green energy, off grid green energy. That project is in the early days at this point in time. I met His Excellency the Prime Minister last Thursday, and that was one of the key projects that we talked about. Uh, it's in the early phases, but I think it has a good potential of being able to sell electricity to industrial projects at a good price. Um, so that's where we're going with our projects.
Thank you. Um, Dr. Khayat, I mean, everyone is speaking about how Egypt's efforts to become an energy hub for the region, and the size and the potential and the amazing opportunity that exists. I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about your vision and how you see that transpiring.
Thank you very much. Uh, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, that the market dynamics are too high, and from one side this could be a positive issue, but from the other side it will be challenging
Absolutely.
because it needs prompt reactions and respond, and how could we react in a positive way for this. When we look currently for the market, we can see different or some key messages that we do believe. The first issue is based on the challenges of the gas supply, and which affects the global market of the energy, and starting looking for new products. And this product could be the green hydrogen, which could be one of the solutions for the future to secure the energy supply, and its derivatives as green ammonia, e-methanol. This is one of the key messages. The second one is in terms of the global political will. And now we are in a COP27. There is a full commitment to the environment from one side, and more passion to invest in renewable energy. Consequently, there is a global political will which will support and paving the way in front of more and more renewable energy projects in the future. The third message I do believe is in terms of capacity per projects. A few years ago, it was normal to speak about mega projects, hundreds of mega projects, something like this. Now, it sounds easy to listen about giga projects. And from one side, yes, exactly. And from one side, it confirms that we need a lot of issues to be considered: grid stability, the storage of the of such products, and also the interconnection among the neighboring countries, and how could we secure more and more reliable renewable energy sources and to be in the texture of the energy network in all countries. The fourth message that I do believe is usually markets looking for pioneers and leaders who believe that we can do something and prove that there is usually a doable mechanism. 10 years ago, no one could believe that such investments in photovoltaic could be done.
True, absolutely true.
Now, it is the most cheapest source of future. I'm sure that it will witness different technologies, different mechanisms for the projects. The market paradigm itself will totally change. And instead of having, such as now, projects just to pump the network or to feed the network with the clean energy, we will see captive projects. We just few speaking about such mechanism. It will be a renewable energy projects to be coupled with water desalination, green ammonia, green hydrogen, e-methanol, electrical vehicles, different applications could be done. Consequently, we do believe that inshallah in the future we will have more and more renewable energy, and this for sure will be based on more harmony among all the stakeholders and the players in the market. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So impressive. And Ms. Shohdi, so explain to us in a little bit more detail, how does green conditioned financing help in transitioning Egypt and Africa towards a green economy? What will BII appetite be in regarding investing in future public-private partnerships of this sort?
Thank you, Reda, for the question. I think it's very important. So, I mean, as BII, we've been investing in across Africa for more than 70 years. So our presence in Africa is quite solid. And I think, as most of us also realize, I think the Africa in general as a continent is one of the continents that are significantly being impacted by climate change, given obviously how challenging the environment is to operate, and looking at different issues and challenges just for the past 2 years. So whether it's COVID, whether it's food security nowadays, whether it's looking at inflationary pressures, and even the wider kind of climate impact. So there's a lot of need for even more innovation to come in. There is more need for very focused and quality climate related investments in these markets. It requires a lot of innovation and quite a risk appetite to actually take on. As you've mentioned earlier, the macroeconomic conditions are constantly changing, and that's not going to change, right? It's the only constant we have around us is change. And we need to find a way to continue to be able to adapt to these changes, but also have the willingness to take on that risk appetite to be able to address these issues in these markets. And I think for us as BII, I mean, Africa has always been at the heart of what we do. It's been a continent we've been investing in it over the past 70 years, as I mentioned. And Egypt as well is one of our powerhouse countries. It's a country where we're focusing, where we think there's a lot of appetite and opportunity to continue to invest. We've been growing our portfolio for quite significantly over the past few years, today with commitments over $750 million across various sectors. And climate still remains to be at the core and heart of what we do. So I think the potential is there, the opportunities are there. I think we just need to bring more of these success stories, similar to Benban, of how we can collaborate as TFIs, private investors, private sector operators and developers, and even the government, in order to find ways and solutions to be able to come up with new ideas of how to bring these opportunities to reality.
Thank you. Absolutely true. Ms. Pakinam Kafefi. So now with Egypt's targets and vision towards 42% renewables energy mix by 2035, the push globally, as we're hearing, towards cleaner, greener energy solutions. Could you tell us a bit about what Taqa Arabiya is doing? What do you have in planning?
Before I talk about the strategy of Taka, I want to say why we did this strategy. I think Egypt have all the pillars. So we have the natural resources, from wind to sun, to plenty of land. We have a government that have a straight vision and knows what they want, 2035, 2050. We have a good platform of regulation, and all these criteria, plus a DFI who's interested to invest in Egypt, make Taka eager to invest and Taka to grow. Our strategy is working simultaneously into two areas. One, the Giga, as Dr. Khayat, we are going to apply in the hydrogen and the wind, and work in the Giga projects, but also our bread and butter, and what we believe that at the end, 5 6 years from now, when liberalization happen, it has to be private to private, and government would be the guidance, the monitoring, the regulator, and the private has to put everything on their shoulder. In order to do that, we have to start picking the private to private. Even if it cannot be in giga projects, we can start it in mega projects, and this is what we are doing. After Benban, we worked with agriculture, with industrial, with resorts. Yes, it's a medium size, 5 year, 6 year, 10 year, but this is the beginning. After that, when the liberalization comes, we can have a land, we can make the network, we can make a piece of land directly to a client with a 50 mega, and we can make the banking, full wheeling. All this will come up within the next year in a full vision, and the variables will be diminished, and we will be able to move forward. So again, Takas have a lot of opportunities. We are lucky that we are in Egypt as an Egyptian company. We are going to grow in the big level and in the small level.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank my panelists for a very, very interesting discussion. Would you like to have any final word? Does anybody want to add anything? Taki will always have to talk.
I will say that not only Taka is aware of the climate, me as an executive in energy and a mother of two young in generation, I think our the first generation who felt it real. We felt the weather changes. We saw things. We have a responsibility to change the climate, and we have to do it for the next generation.
Absolutely. جنجين خليل اتفضل.
We trust private sector. Private sector is our partner. Thank you very much.
Dr. Ahmed, any final word? I mean, there's no question. We have a once in a lifetime opportunity to make a difference for the next generations. It's on us, and we're making it happen together. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you today. I'd like to have a group photo, please.